Hey guys, we're Diane and Sam, and for the last 2 years we've been converting this school bus into our tiny home.
This journey was more of an evolution. We'd always planned on living tiny, and it first kicked off, we were looking at tiny homes and we were really inspired by the movement, and we were watching a lot of videos of people all over the world doing this because of the rental crisis.
When I think back to when Sam first suggested homesteading and a tiny home, we were looking at yurts, we were looking at kit home, any other option rather than a bus. And it wasn't until 3 years ago that a bus came to our mind and we were like, hold on, we can travel and have home and our dogs with us all the time. Like, of course we're going to convert a bus. Like, it only makes sense. We're homesteaders through and through. I think we started off as homesteaders on this channel and our life is just naturally going to progress in that way.
And originally we had planned to buy a block of land and then live tiny on that block of land, so we didn't have to invest so much in our first home essentially, and then we could build up wealth and build the home we wanted. And COVID happened, and that kind of ruined those plans of purchasing land, so we decided to build a house first. But a tiny home wasn't going to cut it. And we were big fans of Justin Rhodes, and their entire family had done a tour of America in a bus. And that kind of just opened our minds to the possibility that we could do this and we could start our family, because it is large enough. It's like twice the size of a tiny home. Once we realized all those things and we got to that point in that journey, it was a no-brainer. And then we just started shopping.
Oh wow.
Are we going to test drive it first? We should.
So when we saw this bus on Facebook Marketplace, it was 4 hours away and we had to commit to going and seeing it to check what it was like. When we first walked down the driveway and saw the size of the bus, I was like, oh my God, what the hell are we getting ourselves into? We are not builders, we're not plumbers, we're not electricians, we're not anything to do with any kind of trade. We're still homesteading. I'm working full time, Sam's about to start working. Like, can we even pull this off?
I was just wrapped up in the dream and the excitement. The beginning was easy. Spend some money, throw some money at it, buy a bus. You know, that's the easy part. You just go on the internet, start looking up some buses. Oh, this one looks good. You start having big dreams, and we took it on. But I'm kind of glad that my brain was in that state, because if I was intimidated or if I was on your level, we may not have committed. Because I was like, yeah, this is easy. I was wrong, spoiler. Like, now I'm looking at tiny homes and I'm just like, 90 degrees, piece of cake.
I think back now at how much I've learnt since we started the build. Like, at the beginning of converting this bus, I didn't know what a spanner was, or what the difference between a nut and a bolt and a screw and a nail. Okay, I knew screw and nail, but still, like, there was so much that I had to learn. Even the learning curve of like learning how to use power tools for the first time and having the confidence to do it by myself.
So I definitely came into this project with some experience. Building, I built our chicken coops, some of our tractors, I built a sheep pen, and those are all very slap it together kind of stuff. I was an offsider for a glazier, and I worked for a window company for a couple of years, and there have been a couple of points in the build where I've actually had the opportunity to like reuse those skills, but anytime I've got a silicone gun in my hand, I'm just like explaining to Diane exactly how to not get silicone everywhere, which I take a lot of pride in. Everything else has been just learning from YouTube as we go.
If it all starts to crumble, we'll search the pieces.
I don't think we can ever say that we truly built this bus alone.
Along the way, we were so grateful to have so many friends and families helping us chip away at some of the bigger, more overwhelming jobs, or even just standing beside us and chatting to us, taking our mind off things as we were getting things done. It was really humbling and overwhelming, the amount of support that we got from our family and friends who kind of made us feel like we weren't alone on this journey, even though a lot of the time we were. We had a lot of friends who donated timber, we had tiles donated as well, we had bottle caps donated that I turned into tiles, and a few other bits and pieces within the bus that are really sentimental to them and therefore to us as well. To know that our bus, its significance goes so much further than just us. Seeing those pieces come to life was just heartwarming.
Me kicking back into the momentum of everyday building all started because I asked a friend for help. Just that process, which happened in about 4, 5, 6 weeks, really just like threw diesel on the fire and allowed me to just grab the baton and run with it. When you watch someone else do one job at a time, they're all doable jobs and they're not necessarily so hard, but it's living life at the same time. Once you get into the space of just chipping away and just knocking a little bit off at a time, one job a day, and you forget about the finish line and you just commit to the process, then suddenly the finish line starts getting closer and closer. So initially when we kicked this off, we were homesteading, so we were looking after animals and looking after gardens, and I was doing a band, and we were trying to build the bus. It was a really, really massive challenge to reorganize our life to build this bus, because we had to sell all our animals and we had to really downsize the amount of effort we're putting into the property that we're on. It was heartbreaking to do that, and ultimately it was the life decision to build this home led us down a path that was just a huge challenge in itself. It gave us the time to develop a bit more of an intimacy with the bus so that I could figure out what steps needed to come first, and that ended up being whatever was below the floorboards had to happen first, which is really challenging for Diane because there was like 6 to 9 months of work done under the floor and cutting into the luggage compartment and mounting water tanks and plumbing and replacing floors before we started visually seeing some walls or studs or things starting to come together.
During that time, we also took a lot of opportunities to think about the floor plan and the design of what we wanted to live in one day. So we had to take into consideration like our usage as far as the solar goes. We had to think about how we wanted to navigate the space, like where we wanted our bedroom, our living room, how big the kitchen needed to be.
I gave her information that forced her hand and made her work in a particular direction. I told her where the tanks had to be mounted, which meant that this is where the water's coming up, so the kitchen had to be here and the shower had to be here.
I think we really prioritize the kitchen more than anything because we know how much we use that space. Same with the living room, we really like an open plan kind of feel, and without it feeling like you are on a bus or you're on a plane and like having those aisles to walk down. Like we wanted it to feel like a home It also means the bathroom is tucked away at the back, so you've got a bit of privacy. The bedroom kind of becomes a nook, and so having the bus set up the way it is gives you privacy in those areas, or just allows you to move around away from each other without feeling like you're on top of each other. The bathroom had to be close enough to the kitchen for us to be able to plumb it properly. So there was a lot that went into the planning and the design stage before we could really start anything. But having that set in place, having a CAD drawing done by my sister, meant that we had a really strong foundation to work off so that we could see the vision of what we wanted to achieve before it came to life. And now that it's kind of like right there in real life and we're walking through it and using the space and like cooking in it and just living in it, it's incredible to think that that's something we designed 2 years ago.
And then this is the bathroom, so you see the toilet down the hall, the showers there.
Towards the end of the build, we actually had to spend a bit of time camping and living away from our bus. We ended up leaving our bus at a neighbour's house and then moving half an hour away to a different suburb to stay with another friend and camping while it was raining, and we were waiting to get the bus onto the property without it getting bogged or stuck halfway through. And that was really challenging. At that point, we didn't have bathrooms, we didn't have the kitchen, we didn't have paint. We only had the shell finished with the walls and the ceilings, which up till that point was a massive job, but there was still so much ahead of us. And I remember finding those few months so challenging.
The other option was a path we had decided we weren't going to go down, which is, go into full-time work and not be on the land. And if I went to full-time work, then I just wouldn't be homesteading.
I try my best to move on, to let go.
We had our wedding coming up. We had friends' weddings coming up as well. There was a lot of events we had to go to, our honeymoon, and all the while we're trying to live on a bus that we're also converting. And if there's anyone out there that has ever renovated a home, that's one thing. It's messy, it's hard, like you are literally surrounded by rubble, and we're doing this in a small space. Like, there is no getting away from one another, there is no getting away from the tools and the building site. Like, we are in it.
Or we're outside on the ground. When everything was finally connected and it all kind of came together in my mind, it was a really good feeling.
We do love camping, and we've camped quite a lot, so it wasn't as hard of a transition for us, I think, as it may be for other people. But I still remember in my mind so clearly every time each new utility was connected. The first time I got to use our toilet on the bus, I giggled the whole time. The first time we got to have a shower, and like a hot shower, and it worked, and yes, it was quick and we could only be in there for so long, but it was so exciting to be self-sufficient on the bus and not having to rely on people and imposing on their space anymore. So throughout our home we have bits of driftwood from our local beaches down in the Bega Valley. We have the green that represents all the trees and the forests all around us, and then all the natural woods. Anything in nature that inspires me, that brings me joy, that brings us joy, or reminds us of places we visited, are things that I will use and welcome in our home.
The aesthetic is one of necessity as well because of budget. So a lot of the wall panels and where we've mounted all the lights, that's just strips of 4mm ply that Diane has painstakingly cut out with a jigsaw and just screwed in. It looks great, but also it cut a lot of corners for us budget-wise. We didn't have to go and source that material separately and spend a whole bunch of extra money. There's a lot of timber, there's a lot of material in the bus that we have just collected along the way based purely on opportunity.
So from the floorboards to our sink, our dishwasher, our shower heads, all our tapware, all of those elements are secondhand. So not only did they help to reduce the cost and help us to stay in our budget, but they also aligned with our morals.
Patience is definitely the most important virtue when it comes to the build. Every single time I ran into an issue where I wasn't enjoying the bus build, it's because I was not leaning towards that virtue enough. And that definitely ties in with working with your partner or spouse or brother or friend. Just the patience to talk a situation out or be understanding when someone's frustrated, give someone space, but also giving them the space to work it out for themselves and be creative within their own realm.
Throughout the process, it was so overwhelming and exhausting, and a lot of the time we had so much else weighing on us as we're trying to build that I think one of the best things that we did with each other was just stop and dance and just be together and enjoy the space and just talk about something else for a moment, distract one another with a silly joke, or just being silly throughout the process meant that it didn't feel like work and you could go back to remembering that this was just you and your partner building your home, building your life together, learning things together, working through a journey and problems with one another. And it turned the bus conversion from something that was really hard and overwhelming to something that, when you think back to those moments, was just fun. I think converting a bus or a vehicle into your home as opposed to buying it, especially for young people trying to get into the home market, it's such a good way to do it because you feel a lot of satisfaction in the build itself, but you're also able to design a home that actually suits you and your family and your goals and ambitions for life. I think if we had bought something instead, we just wouldn't have satisfied that same itch and desire to learn that we have with the build. So if you're thinking of converting your own vehicle, like, go for it. You don't need prior experience. You're going to learn so much along the way, and I think you'll actually be greatly surprised by those that come to aid you along the way, and I know that this is only just the beginning.
The advice I would give to anyone who's looking to build a bus conversion motorhome is approach it with a full heart, but with a certain sense of realism and sensibility. Just the process of going through it will change your life. The monumental job of building your home from scratch and the weight that you have to lift up on your shoulders is more than you can anticipate when you watch someone on YouTube do one job at a time. It is absolutely worth it, but you will suffer. But if you're going to suffer for anything, this is the job to suffer for. So emotional now. Oh man.
So that's our build. We hope you've enjoyed this video and seeing the conversion from start to finish. If you're interested at all at seeing any parts of the process in more depth, we have a whole catalog on our channel, and we are so excited that we got to do this and share it with you the whole way.
And the journey doesn't stop here. From here, we just launch off into the distance. We are not going to stop uploading videos. We're going to be exploring people's properties, and at this point we want to see what everyone else is doing, and we want to inspire, and we want to encourage, and we want to enjoy this stage of our life, because who knows what's just around the corner for us, and who knows where we're going to go next. But if you stay tuned, you'll see.
So make sure you like and subscribe and stay tuned for our next video. See you guys. We're gonna go get the dogs. Come here!